Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bookish Babbles, the podcast where we reread our favorite books and chat about them. I'm your host, Alyson, and without further ado, let's get started. Hi, everyone! Welcome back to another bonus episode of Bookish Babbles. Today, we're, of course, doing another book tag. I know Valentine's Day was last week. Yeah, but it's still February, so it's still the month of love. So I just wanted to do a kind of Valentine's-ish theme, and because I love Taylor Swift book tags, and thankfully the internet provides a lot of those, I thought, hey, let's do the Lover book tag. This is, of course, based off of Taylor Swift's album Lover, which I think is a fairly underrated album because the album that came out after that was Folklore, and that exploded, which understandable because that's my personal favorite album. But yeah, without any further ado, let's dive into the questions. I forgot that you existed, a character you would love to forget or wish didn't exist. And for this one, I decided to go with Octavian from the Heroes of Olympus. Like, Octavian's kind of like the Umbridge of the Heroes of Olympus series. No one likes him, and if I ever meet someone who says that Octavian is their favorite character and they like love him and say things something like he deserved better, I would be very concerned about that person. Um, he's annoying. I love roasting him. But without Octavian, we wouldn't have that very spoiler alert, I guess, for Blood of Olympus. But we wouldn't have that very wonderful moment where he accidentally attaches himself to a missile and yeets himself at the fight happening between Gaia and Leo in the sky. Like if the upcoming show ever gets to like the Heroes of Olympus part and we get to see that on screen, that'll be the best thing ever. That'll be my favorite thing, hands down, because even it's supposed to be like this serious dramatic thing, but I every time I think of it, I can't help but laugh. So thank you, Rick Riordan, for giving me that. It almost makes up for everything awful Octavian does. Okay, next question. Next is Cruel Summer, which, by the way, is one of my favorite songs in the album. I love playing it, during the summer months. Like, some of the songs I'll playing, like The Windows Down, and it's a good one. But anyway, the question is, favorite summer romance in a book, and I went with The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson. Morgan Matson is a pretty well-known, like, YA contemporary author, and I really love all her books, that at least all the ones that I've read so far. I don't think I read the newest one. What's it called? Take Me Home. I think it takes place in New York. I need to read that this summer because it's ridiculous that I haven't read it yet. But The Unexpected Everything takes place in the summer. It's been a while since I've read it, so I can't quite remember all the details, but I believe the main character, she's like the daughter of a politician, and she's supposed to get this like fancy internship, but then that plan falls through because of some political scandal her dad gets caught up in, so she ends up walking dogs for her job for the summer, and it's a really like fun, enjoyable book, and I do like the relationship she and the guy have. I believe he's an author too, if I remember that correctly. Yeah, I can't remember everything that happened in that book, but I remember really liking it, and I highly recommend having a Morgan Matson book. Although, Second Chance Summer, I remember being kind of sad. So just about every other book written by Morgan Matson is like a fun, happy, summery, contemporary book. And with all that being said, on to the next question. Lover, favorite OTP romance? I've tried not to say Hinny or Persebeth, though I still mentioned it just now, so already I'm failing. But my official answer for this question is going to be Kaz and Inej from Six of Crows. I love this relationship so much. Granted, I love pretty much all the relationships in Six of Crows, but I don't know, there's something about Kaz and Inej that I think is just so unique, especially in terms of, YA fantasy characters, because I'd have to reread the series to remember, so I could be wrong. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. but I think they don't even kiss. And I think of them just like touching. I think they only did, like held hands at the end or something. Again, I can't quite remember everything that happens in that book. I would have to reread them eventually. I do want to reread all those books for the podcast. But yeah, it's like a relationship that didn't even require a big like romantic kiss like with the sunset in the background or something, but they just like connect so well and they respect each other so much that it's a weirdly healthy relationship, I think, despite the fact that, they're doing criminal activities. And I love it. And I love them in the show. Like the actors read the books, they understand that kind of bond that the characters have, and it's so beautiful to see on screen. Again, I can't wait for season 2. I'll be insufferable. On to the next question. All right, the man, favorite strong female lead. And for this one, I'm going with Cordelia Carstairs from the Last Hours trilogy by, of course, Cassandra Clare. I love the Last Hours trilogy so much, and I love all the characters. I love Cordelia. I think she's now in like my top 3 favorite characters. My top 3 in that universe being Tessa, Jem, and now Cordelia. And it's funny because even though Tessa's technically my favorite like character, if I have to pick one, she's the one I love the most. Like Cordelia is like my favorite protagonist now out of all the series we've gotten so far. Like I just love how brave she is, how bold she is at time, how much she wants to be a hero and help people, and I also love how loyal she is to her friends. Like I don't know, she's a great protagonist, and I love her so much, and I love and I am a hardcore James and Cordelia shipper, and I'm not ready for Chain of Thorns. I'm probably gonna cry more than I did with Chain of Iron, or potentially even more than Clockwork Princess. That would be a huge deal if that happens, because my friends remember how much of a mess I was after reading Clockwork Princess. Oh man, I love you guys. Glad you're still my friends. On to the next question. All right, The Archer. Favorite fantasy world you would be willing to live in? And for that, I'm going to say the Wizarding World, because who doesn't want to live in the Wizarding World? But because it is basically our world, like I could still have access to, modern technology and whatnot. But, and like for the most part, as long as there isn't some big war going on, the Wizarding World seems pretty chill to live in. I mean, they still have stupid, like, politicians, as we clearly see in Order of the Phoenix, but that's our world too. Um, and even if like a war did break out, they have that charm. What is it called? The Felidus charm. I butchered that. I'm so sorry to all the Potterheads listening. Hashtag fake fan. But like the one that required the secret keeper to keep a place hidden. So even if I was around in the Wizarding world during the time where Voldemort was running amok, all I would have to do is get my like closest friends and family. I don't know, get a big house together, and we would protect it with a charm. I would be the secret keeper, and I never like to leave the house anyway, so I wouldn't tell anyone. So we'd all be safe. Like we just have to stock up on a lot of canned food. I have a lot books and board games. We would keep ourselves entertained. See, it would be a good time. And then we would wait out the conflicts. Boy, I'm not a fighter. I'm not brave enough to fight Voldemort, guys. So I'm happy to shelter anyone who would need it in that conflict. In this very fictional scenario. All right, on to the next question. All right, next is I Think He Knows, the most loved book on your shelf. And this one meaning like the book that is like kind of the most physically beat up because it was read so many times. And and for that would be my original paperback copy of Sea of Monsters, because like my original like all my original paperbacks of the Percy Jackson books are like pretty like worn out and cracked, and like all the spines are very very cracked because I reread those so many times in like 6th and 7th grade. Pretty sure like I was like rereading them on a loop. But Sea of Monsters especially, because some of the pages fell out of the binding after I loaned it to someone. So this is why I have a fear of loaning out my books to people. So eventually I rebought the whole series in hardcover, and to answer anyone's question, yes, I will be spending my money on the new covers when they come out in May, I think? March, May? Soon? I don't know. I have to look it up again, but yes, I will be buying the new covers. On to the next question. Miss Americana, favorite forbidden romance, and oh no, another Hunters answer. Yeah, I haven't really read any like a lot of books with like forbidden romances that I really like. Like when I tried thinking of an answer other than a Shadowhunters one, nothing was sticking out to me. And I haven't read These Violent Delights yet, which is, retelling of Romeo and Juliet. I keep meaning to read it. I meant to read it this month, but then all my holds at the library came in at once, so I had to read all those books. But I have the duology ready to read soon. But anyway, my answer to this question: Emma Carstairs and Julian Blackthorne from the Dark Artifices, because they are parabatai. I've been saying parabati for years. Then the TV show said parabatai, and I'm confused. But anyway, so they're parabody, meaning they're like, warriors bonded for life, magical connection. Basically, the idea of parabody is they're supposed to be like platonic soulmates. But what do you know? Emma and Julian start to fall in love with each other, and that's not allowed for parabody because, they decided to become parabody when they were like 12 so that they wouldn't get separated after Emma's parents died at the end of City of Heavenly Fire because the adults were being stupid and trying to send Emma away when she just wanted to stay with the Blackthorns. But anyway, they start developing feelings for each other when they're like 16, 17. I can't remember exactly how old they are in the Dark Artifices, but yeah, it causes a lot of problems and angst, and I love it. So on to the next question. Paper Rings, a book lover you would marry. Jem Carstairs, hands down. Every single time, I will always choose that man over just about all the fictional boys. Um, yeah, but I've loved him since I was 16 the first time I read The Infernal Devices. Next. Okay, Cornelia Street, a book set in a place you would love to visit slash love visiting. So I have a book that kind of answers both those questions. Keeper of the Night by Kylie Reed Baker. Yeah, if you want like a fantasy book with a with a really like morally gray protagonist, that's a really good one. You should check that out. But yeah, the book starts off in London, which is a city I love. I was lucky enough to go a couple years ago in 2019, right before the pandemic started. And I love that city. I really want to go back, but COVID got in the way, as it did for a lot of people. But so it starts off in London, then goes to Japan, which is a country I really want to visit, but again, can't really do that anytime in the near future because COVID screwed everything up. But yeah, it's a really good book, and like the main characters, they're reapers. They deal with like souls and whatnot. And I have no idea when the second. I think there's supposed to be a sequel. I hope so because I want the sequel. Okay, moving on. Death by a Thousand Cuts, a book that made you a puddle of mush. Mockingjay. Just Mockingjay. If you know the end of that book, you know. Okay, moving on. London Boy, favorite British character. This is a really basic answer, but Harry Potter, like the character, because because Harry was like one of my first like fictional like book crushes when I was little. I don't know. He's just a really sweet boy, and I think he's weirdly underrated, like especially in the fandom, because I think most people are crushing on like Sirius. I don't know, or Cedric. I'm not keeping up with that really, but yeah, like when I was like 12 and reading those books for the first time, my like fictional crush was like Harry. If I had to pick one of those boys to date, I really wanted to be Ginny, even though I'm more personality wise, I'm definitely more of a Hermione. I even got the curly hair for it. But yeah, Harry Potter. Next question. Soon you'll get better. Favorite book that deals with illness, whether physical or mental, and I went with a basic answer, The Fault in Our Stars. Like I read that book so many times in high school, like it's insane. Like to the like at least like 7 or 8 times. Like it got to the point where when I like because I would always get to homeroom early and I'd be reading, and I got into homeroom. One of my friends was like, Alyson, you know there are other books you can read, right? Right? Like, yeah. I think that was like the last book that I like obsessively like reread. Like I hadn't really done that since like early high school and middle school. So yeah, I will be rereading this for the podcast at some point because I'll definitely need a break and to reread some standalones after going through like big series. Because after the Hunger Games, I plan to cover all the Rick Riordan books, and that's gonna be a lot. So on to the next question. False Gods, sexiest romance you have read. So this was kind of tricky for me because I don't read a lot of books with like smut. Like nothing wrong with that. Obviously, it's just not my personal taste. But for I did go with Red, White, and Royal Blue, which fantastic book. No, it's very popular and is maybe a little overhyped, but I don't know if the hype scares you, just lower your expectations. I promise it's still a really good book, though there is quite a bit of smut. Like I remember, like I kind of skimmed through those parts of the book just because again not my personal thing, but it is like an overall really good book and I recommend it if you want like a fun romancy read type of book. You Need to Calm Down, a book you fangirl about like no other when it's mentioned. And so for this one, I texted some of my friends and just asked them like, "Hey, which book do you think I freak out over the most when it's mentioned?" So thank you guys if you're listening for answering my random text message questions. And I'm not kidding, every single one of them said Percy Jackson. Like some of them gave me a few answers, but every single one said Percy Jackson, so that's like the answer. And others they mentioned were Harry Potter, Hunger Games, Mortal Instruments, and one person said Twilight. Yes, I was a Twihard when I was 12. I'm not ashamed to admit that. Maybe just a little, but overall, not ashamed. Oh boy. On to the next question. Afterglow, your favorite villain you can't help but love. So I'm kind of cheating because instead of saying a book character, I'm going with a TV show character. But like this show is based off of a lot of fairy tales. Fairy tales are in books, so I'm counting it. But Rumpelstiltskin from Once Upon a Time. Yes, my toxic trait is being a uh, Rumpel defender and a Rumbell shipper, although Belle's my favorite character, so when they're fighting, I'm usually on her side. But, yeah, no matter how much this man does wrong, he's still, like, one of my favorite characters on the show, even though, he still does terrible and very questionable things at times, though Robert Carlyle plays him very well, and I love the show Once Upon a Time. It's one of my comfort shows, as all my friends who are listening know. Hi guys, thank you for putting up with me. I love you. Okay, on to the next question. Me, which, by the way, I know it's not like a very popular song. I think, but I really like it. Like when it comes on, I always jam out to it. I think that's an unpopular opinion in the Swiftie fandom, but I don't know. I think it's better than most people give it credit for. And it's very catchy too. My brother and I jam out to it. So, anyway, the question is a book character you would want to play in an adaptation. Oh boy, do I have so many I would love to play. Like, my big ultimate number one answer is, of course, Hermione Granger. But I also have a couple I want to mention. I got a couple in like a few categories. Like this category is characters that I like could have played when the movies were being made. So the first one is Annabeth Chase in The Lightning Thief because fun fact, the Lightning Thief movie that I hate came out when I was 12 years old, so I was the right age. I could have played Annabeth, but no, they decided to age up the characters and make the movie terrible. And another character I could have played at the time the movie was coming out would have been Teresa in the Maze Runner movies. And a very unpopular opinion, but she's my favorite character in that series. Don't hate me. But But yeah, had they just wanted to cast like actual teenagers, because I was 16 when that movie came out, so I would have been the right age if they had wanted to cast like actual teenagers for that movie. Though the whole cast did great. Kaya Scodelario was fantastic as Teresa, so I don't begrudge them for that. And the last category is like characters I could play like right now because there aren't the movie adaptations aren't out yet. The first one that I think would be my number one answer that I would love to play is of course Tessa in the Infernal Devices, because I would get to fall in love with Jem. Who wouldn't want that? And hey, Francis Lawrence, if you need a Lucy Gray, I'm right here. I can do it. Doubt he's listening. And then last answer is Cap from Fangirl. Although I guess I would also have to play Ren because they're twins and they're identical. Because I think Ren offers to use for Cap to use their fake ID, like to share it. So yeah, I think they're identical. That would be fun though, because like Ren is like opposite personality for me. Like I'm very much a Cath. Like I was a Cath in college. So it'd be fun to get to play both those characters, hypothetically. So, yep, that's the answer to that question. Moving on. Okay, it's nice to have a friend. Favorite friends to lovers romance, and I could have gone with Percabeth, but I'm trying not to. um, so I went with Emma and Sam from One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Like, it's a very like sweet progression to their relationship, and I was rooting. The first time I read the book, I was rooting for Jesse and Emma the whole time. But I don't know. I think I might love Sam more now. Maybe that's just because Simu's playing him in the upcoming adaptation. That could be a big reason. But yeah, if you haven't read One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid, I recommend it. It's one of my favorite like contemporary romance books, and hashtag Team Sam. uh, and on to the last question. All right, and the last question is Daylight, a book that left a lasting impression on you / you can't stop thinking about it. Radio Silence by Oseman. I read this in the summer of 2017. I've never stopped thinking about it, and it's like one of my all-time favorite books, and I want more people to read it, and I will eventually cover it in this podcast. I don't know when, because this book touched me on like a very deep like emotional like core way that I can't really articulate. Maybe when I can properly articulate it in a couple years, maybe I can truly talk about it. But who knows? But yes, Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. Everyone should read it, and all of her other books. I know her graphic novel series Heartstopper is getting more popular, and which is fantastic. And they're getting a TV show adaptation. I can't wait to see that. But yeah, with that being said, that is the end of the tag, end of this episode. Hope you guys enjoy. And I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.